wanted to talk about the High Holy Days. It's a real problem for me because there's just too much to tell. So the churches come through and they'll be serving lunch. We got sleeping bags coming for tonight. You know, the interesting thing about talking about the Jewish High Holy Days in a context of a church is, in fact, reclaiming a piece of Jesus' own life. It is surprising to me how many people don't know what religion Jesus was. But he celebrated Rosh Hashanah, he celebrated the Jewish New Year, and he celebrated Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, or the Day of At-One-ment. And I wish that the early church had been more friendly to Jesus' Jewish teachings about his own observances, because we could use that. But I want to tell you a little bit about it. Rosh Hashanah literally means, Rosh is head, Shana is year. Rosh is obviously also consciousness. Shana is a Hebrew verb that also can mean change, something new. Something new comes from consciousness. You've heard things like that. But there was a time when something went wrong. And the gates of heaven were like somebody was pounding on the gates of heaven at Rosh Hashanah. And disturbing, because Rosh Hashanah, the thing, as above, so below. I mean, they're celebrating too. And somebody goes to the gate and opens up, and who is it? It's the new year. And the new year says, I got to talk to God. And they say, nobody comes in without an appointment. So I got to talk to God. Something terrible has gone on. And they finally give the New Year audience, and God says, what are you doing up here? You're supposed to be down there. Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the year. You're supposed to be taken over from the old year, and the new year says, I can't do it. And God says, why not? And the new year says, the old year won't let go. God says, the old year won't let go. We got to fix this. And God sends Michael, the archangel at God's right-hand side down. Goes down with the new year. He's all ready, comes back to God. He says, the old year won't let go. God sends Gabriel at the left hand, the archangel. Once again, failure. So God finally sends Elijah. Eliyahu the prophet, is kind of like the quintessential Jewish spirit guide, reappearing in legend from time to time through history. And Elijah's kind of more sensitive. And Elijah walks down with the new year, and they find the old year, and she is just clinging. And Elijah says, you've got to let go. We can't stop time like this. I mean, this is getting serious. And the old year says, I just can't let go. And Elijah says, why? Elijah kind of sits down, listens, and the old year says, I can't let go because I haven't finished what I came here to do. At the beginning of the year, I had all kinds of things I wanted to do this year, all kinds of intentions, all kinds of goals, all kinds of promises, all kinds of commitments, and I haven't finished them. And Elijah says, oh, dear old year, you have to know that's always the case. Because unless you've dreamed bigger dreams than you could possibly complete in a year, you haven't dreamed big enough. Unless you haven't set intentions that are greater than you could possibly think you could achieve, you haven't set great enough intentions. Oh, dear old year, it's okay. And the old year feels so soothed by the words of Elijah that the old year says, okay. And the old year finally lets go, and Elijah motions to the new year and says, you can come in, and the new year says, no way. If that's what I have to look forward to, why would I want to come in? And Elijah says to him, look, that's the way it is. That's just the way it is. A new year is given for the year and for all of us to dream dreams that are bigger than we've ever dreamed before. To set intentions that are fuller than they've ever been before. To envision ourselves stepping into life in such a fuller way. And at the end of the year, we celebrate that which we've been able to accomplish, but we don't beat ourselves up for that which we haven't met yet. And Elijah says, and look, if you forget, I'll come back and remind you. That's Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, the legend is that the book of life is open. And between Rosh Hashanah and 10 days later, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the Day of At-One-ment, we have time to kind of adjust ourselves so that we can be written in the book of life. Now, like when I was young, I took that very literally, meaning if you're written in the book of life, you live, and if you're written in the book of death, you die. But it's not like that. If you're written in the book of life, it means you are living alive. You are living your life, you're present. If you're written in the book of death, it means you're living a life of pretense. You're going through the motions, but you're not really connecting. You're not really present. You're not really there. And if truth be told, technically there are 3 books opened on Rosh Hashanah. Most people don't know this. It gets complicated. There's the book of life that's for people who are clearly alive. And there's the book of death for people who are clearly walking through making the motions, but they're not present. They don't know. They're not awake. And then there's the book of life and death for people who are kind of tottering in between. And the 10 days are given for people who are tottering in between to wake up, so they could be written in the book of life. And of course, the question is, who writes us in the book of life? We do. We write ourselves in the book of life. We write ourselves in the book of death by the dreams we dream and the intentions we set and the goals we seek and the lives we choose to live. So that's the frame of the holy days. And then we get to a place of Yom Kippur where we enter into forgiveness. Traditionally, we approach each other and we say the following statement: if I have offended you in any way, consciously or unconsciously, during the last year, I ask you to forgive me. It's a beautiful phrase, and as far as I'm concerned, it's meaningless. Because what it leads to is people to say, okay, I forgive you. But if truth be told, forgiveness is one of the most difficult things to achieve. I mean, we can say it, but to really forgive is an issue. Because we tend to define ourselves by our resentments and by our angers and by our guilts and by our shame. We carry around our resentments, we carry around our anger like a weight around our neck. It's the burden of our past. You know, the burden of our past are not the good things that happen. They're the pains we keep inflicting on ourselves through memory, time and time and time and time again. So we might say, yes, I forgive, or I want to forgive. You know how you know you haven't forgiven? I mean, we can consciously say, I want to forgive. But when we have guilt, when we have resentments, when we have anger, whenever that's re-stimulated, whenever we think of that person, or whenever we think of that event, or whenever we see that person, or whenever we're at a particular place that happened, something occurs within the body. It's like, and wherever that occurs, and there's thoughts that go on with it, and there's feelings that go on with it, and whenever that happens, we know we've not forgiven. Forgiveness is often confused with forgetness, and forgiving is not forgetting. Forgiving is something deeper. The first step of forgiveness is to choose to forgive. I want to forgive. Why do I want to forgive? Forgiveness doesn't let you off the hook, it lets me off the hook. Forgiveness means I'm not carrying that episode around with me anymore. I'm not carrying you around with me anymore. I am free of that. And how do we do that? We might start with a conscious choice. I want to forgive. I want to let go. I don't want to carry this. I'm not letting you off the hook, whoever you are. I'm letting me off the hook. But the thing about making conscious decisions is it only operates as long as we stay conscious. And if you're anything like me, that's a limited amount of time. I think I'm conscious until something happens and I react. Reactivity is faster than the speed of thought. I forgive the driver for cutting in front of me. I'm not going to get upset anymore when that happens. And that could be a conscious choice. Why do that to my body? And that's fine until I'm driving along and somebody cuts me off. And I mean, I keep my fingers down. But that doesn't mean. So in Jewish tradition, the first step of a forgiveness is the choice to forgive. The second step of forgiveness is to let go of the need for the past to have been any different than it was. This is really interesting. Because if you look behind the things we carry around with us, you find that we are shoulding ourselves. We should not have done that. They should not have done that. It should not have been that way. What was, whether we want it to be or not. Unless we're going to do some kind of frontal lobotomy and take the memories out of our mind, what was. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not denying. It's not suppressing. It's not repressing. It's knowing, but no longer carrying it. Being able to release it so that we can get on with our lives. How do you get to the place of allowing the past to be exactly as it was? This is really frightening. You choose it to be what it was. You choose it to be what it was And the simplest way to know that one can do that is to awaken to the absolute blessing of being where you are now. Because if where I'm at now is a place of blessing and a place of possibility and a place of love and a place of openness and a place of connection, then I recognize that the only way I could have gotten here is the way I got here. Had not the past been exactly as it was, with all its trials and with all its sadness and with all its griefs and with all its joys and with all its hopes, I could not be here at this moment. None of us could be here at this moment. So that means that in order to truly forgive, I have to allow myself to step into the wonder, the immediacy of the present moment. And to be willing to call this present moment blessed. And to be willing to call this present moment good. And to know that when I bless this present moment, that releases me from any stuckness I might have. Because our anger, our upset, our guilt, our shame keeps us rooted. To bless is to release. It's a remarkable thing about relationships. You all know this, whether consciously or not. We human beings form the closest relationships by opening with love. And then we try to end relationships by closing with anger, with resentment, with blame. And by golly, that anger, that resentment, and that blame binds us to that other person. So in fact, we can never let go. The only way we can truly come together is with love, and the only way we can truly release is with love. That doesn't mean we've got to see the person ever again. It just means we release with love. We don't carry anger. We don't nurse that pain. We open to forgiveness because we want to cherish the present moment and we want to walk into a future unburdened. And then there's a third step. So the first step is a conscious desire to let myself off the hook. The person who committed whatever terrible offense they committed, that's their stuff. I can't forgive them. I can open in forgiveness. Their trip is their trip. So the first step is the decision, the choice, the intention. And the second step is to choose the past to be exactly as it was. To let go of our shoulding, our shoulds. And the third step is called atonement. And atonement is really interesting because what I think atonement essentially means is being able to do something in the world now that we could not have done had not the past been exactly as it was. What greater sensitivity do I gain because of past pains? What greater sensitivity do I gain because of past shames? What greater sensitivity do I have now because of past failures? And how can I express that in the world? Every once in a while, I will find myself working with somebody who is the victim of abuse. And one discovers that those are the people who are able to, once stepping through forgiveness, again, not letting anybody off the hook, not forgetting, but getting rid of carrying around that abuse consistently again and again and again. Some of those people are able to counsel and share with other abuse victims in a way that no one else can. What have I learned through my experience that allows me to support those who are encountering some of the same challenges that I encountered? And what is it that each of you have within you that are gifts to your world, yearning to be expressed, that you have because your history has been what it is? On Rosh Hashanah, which is really the celebration of the creation of the world, it's a remarkable, remarkable image. It's like every year the world gets created anew. What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? And every year specifically we get offered the key to unlocking us, to freeing us from our past. And that's called forgiveness. So it is no simple coincidence that atonement also spells at-one-ment. Because to be able to express in the world what we uniquely are able to express opens us to a deeper connection. And that, after all, is the symptom of forgiveness. The symptom of forgiveness is being able to connect. To connect even with those parts of ourselves and of others that we consider to be not okay. To not be present to dehumanize another, to not be present to demonize another, but to be present to know that the presence that awakens within each and every one of us awakens within everyone, and ultimately within everything. This whole place is alive. And how do we release our own barriers to that precious knowing? The chair, that's for me. You know, when I first came to town, sometimes I substituted for rabbis on Shabbat who were on vacation. They didn't let me do this too often because they found what I did. So I'm leading a service in a much more formal way than I feel comfortable doing. But I added several periods of meditation, during the second of which, as I sat down, an older woman in the back of the room was heard to loudly proclaim, "What, the rabbi's tired again? He needs to sit down?" I'll tell you why I sit down, because I don't like to meditate standing up. So I invite you, as you are comfortable, to just take a deep breath and settle in. And just notice how it is to be present in your body. However it is, without trying to change anything, simply noticing. Your body is breathing. Your heart is beating. So many incredible incredible reflections of life happening at this very moment within your physical being. And the more quiet one becomes, the easier it is to perceive the workings of the mind, the thoughts, the conversations we're having with ourselves all the time. But in this moment, reminding yourself that you have a mind. And the more you relax, you're able to perceive that you have a mind, but your mind doesn't have you. You have a mind, but you are more than that mind. Just as you have a body, and you are more than that body. In any moment, you have feelings and thoughts about those feelings. Just to notice. Perhaps to take a moment to remember some of the deep commitments, the deep intentions, the deep goals that you have set for yourselves in the months past. And perhaps to notice some of them that you have achieved and some not yet. Perhaps even to notice that some of your intentions have changed. Some of your goals have shifted. And to say to the past self who set those intentions and set those dreams and set those goals, you did well. You did well. And to let go so that a space is created for fuller dreams, more expansive intentions. Imagining yourselves walking into the world with greater love, greater compassion, witnessing the presence in everyone you meet, celebrating the life we share. And making a choice to forgive yourself. And making a choice to forgive others. And making a choice to forgive the universe. Making the choice to choose your past. To choose your past. Because in choosing your past, you allow the present to be new. In choosing your past, you allow the present to be now. And to open your hearts to the ways in which the universe has prepared you to serve. To serve in whatever capacity is right for you. To make your life a ministry. Whatever your work, whatever your play, whatever you're sharing, allow that to be your ministry. Allow that to be your service. Dream bigger. Intend more fully. And forgive yourself in advance that you might remember to celebrate and to cherish each and every moment. Aware of the body, aware of the breath, curious about the nature of this moment. Perhaps knowing in advance, I celebrate this moment. I am exactly where I want to be. I'm with exactly the people I want to be with. I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. And I am exactly the one I want to be. And take a gentle breath. Allow your eyes to open. How long do I get to sit here? Thank you, folks.